Hi, this is Tamara from mooglyblog.com, and in this video I'd like to show you the crocodile stitch. Here I have an example of the crocodile stitch, which I did with some cotton and an eye hook. The crocodile stitch has several different ways of being made. There's lots of videos out there, but I'm going to show you the way I like to make it. Now, to start, I'm going to use some more cotton. This time I'm going to use an H hook just because it fits better with the cotton I'm using. I'm going to chain a multiple of 5 plus 1. Different types of crocodile stitches have different amounts. I know some people like to do multiples of 6, but for this one I really like to do the multiples of 5 plus 1. It just seems to work better for me. So multiple of 5 is 20, plus 1 is 21, so that's what we'll start with here. Okay, so I've chained 21. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double crochet in the 6th chain from the hook. So I'll go ahead and yarn over and hold that down and count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 chains, and I'm going to double crochet right in there. Different people like to work into the chain different ways, however you prefer is fine. So 2 double crochets right in that 6th chain, just like so. Okay, then I'm going to chain 1, skip the next 2 chains, 1, 2, then in the next chain after that I'm going to double crochet 1. So 1 double crochet in that 3rd chain there. Okay, then I'll chain 1 again, skip 2 more chains, 1, 2, and work 2 double crochets in the next one. 1 and 2. Okay, then I chain 1, skip 2, 1, 2, and 1 double crochet in the next one. Basically that's the pattern. 2 double crochets, chain 1, skip 2, 1 double crochet, chain, then I've got 1 double crochet, chain 1, skip 2, 2 double crochets. Okay, 2 double crochets just made. I chain 1, I skip 2 chains, and then in that last chain I'm going to work a single double crochet. Okay, there we are. So you can see that those first 6 we skipped kind of counts like the chain 1 and the chain 2 with the first double crochet there. Then we've got 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. So you can see that's the pattern we do for the first row. It doesn't matter how long the first row is, this is the basic pattern. You just keep repeating the 2 and then the 1 until you get to the end. So to work the next row, we're going to chain 1. Now this is where we're going to begin making the crocodile stitches, the scales, if you will. We're going to turn the work over and yarn over, and instead of working into the tops of stitches like we normally do, this is sort of like wiggly crochet or almost like a post stitches. What we're going to do is we're going to come behind the first of the 2. We're going to skip that first one on the end altogether. We're going to come over to where we have 2 double crochets and going back around the very first post, we're going to work a double crochet going right around the post. So you can go ahead, it's fine to go ahead and turn that first row here to however easiest so you can work around the post of that first double crochet. We're going to work 5 double crochets right around that post. So that's 2, there's 3, 4, and 5. That's the first half of the first scale. Now to work the second half of that first scale, you can see there's that last single crochet or double crochet we made. We're going to go to the second double crochet of the double crochet that we made and turning so that the bottom chain stitches are the bottom of the scale. We're going to go ahead and turn and start working back around that second post from bottom to the top. Hard to describe in words, but hopefully you can see what I'm doing here, and once you have it in your own hands it becomes a little bit clearer too. So again, we're going to work 5 double crochets right around the post of that second in the pair of double crochets. Okay, Now when you flip this back over, you can see that we've made our first scale. So what's next is a single double crochet. So in the top of that single double crochet, we're going to work 1 slip stitch. That anchors down our first scale. Now we're ready to go ahead and start the second scale. You can see we've got another set of 2 double crochets. So we're going to yarn over and start working around the post of the first one, just like so. And at this point, it's okay to go ahead and fold it over so that that's right on top. And work 5 double crochets right around that first post. There's 2 and then 3. At this point I need to pull up a little more yarn here. I'm getting a little tangled. It's always fun, right? Alright, there we are. Okay, so that's 3 and then 4 and then 5. Then we're ready to work the second half. So kind of pull it out flat again, and you can see there's the second double crochet. So we'll turn the whole thing around a little bit. Oops, get a yarn over and make 5 more double crochets. 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, now we've finished our second scale. And it's kind of wiggly. You pull it out flat here. You can see we've made 2 scales already. Now we've got a single double crochet, so we'll single crochet slip stitch right in the top of that one. And then in our last set of 2, we're going to make our last scale. I'll yarn over and go around the first of the 2 with 5 double crochets. 3, 4, and 5. And then kind of spin the whole thing around to work from bottom to top of that second post. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, and there we've made a set of 3 scales. So to finish off this row, what I'm going to do is slip stitch in the second chain from the top here, or say the third chain from the bottom of that loop that we left there of the 6, and just work a single crochet right in there to anchor down the second half of this scale here. Let's try that again. Lost the stitch. Okay, so there we are. And that's our first row of 3 scales. Now we have to set up our second row. This is what the back of the first row looks like. Okay, so from here we chain 3, 1, 2, 3. That'll count as a double crochet, and then we're going to yarn over and work another double crochet right into that stitch. You kind of have to create a stitch there. It's not real clear on where it would be, but just kind of go right back down in where that set of chains starts kind of coming out, and push right on through to the front. Okay, so that's our first 2 double crochets. So we'll chain 1, and then we're going to work a single crochet right in the center of that first shell, or rather the last shell of the last row. Then we'll chain 1 and work a set of 2 double crochets in the top of the slip stitch that we made. 1 and 2. Then we'll chain 1 and work a single double crochet in the top of the next shell. Chain 1 and work 2 double crochets in the top of the next slip stitch. And that's basically the pattern for the setup row for the second row. Chain 1 once more, double crochet once in the center of the last shell here, chain 1 and 2 double crochets right in the end. Again, you kind of have to find where that last stitch should be. There at the very end, and work 2 double crochets right in that spot. Okay, so now we're ready to start making the shells for the second row. So we'll chain 1 and turn just as before. And here we've got a set of 2, so we're going to start right in this first one here, going from behind and start our first set of 5 double crochets going around that post. You can see from here a little easier that I'm just going right around the post with each stitch. That's 3, 4, and 5. And you'll probably note too that it's actually the backs of our double crochets that form the scales. So yarn over and get ready to work the second half of the scale. I'll flip it back over, grab that second double crochet of the set of 2 and start working from the bottom to the top of it with 5 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Then to anchor down that first scale, I'm going to slip stitch in the top of that single double crochet that we made in the middle of the previous shell. Then I'll yarn over and start the second scale of row 2, working 5 double crochets right around that first double crochet post. 4, 5, and I'll turn, find the second one there waiting for me, and start going from the bottom to the top of that post. If you've worked with wiggly crochet before, or the wiglet trivet that's on Moogly blog, you'll be somewhat familiar with this whole process of working up and down the posts. It's pretty much the same thing. We're just doing it in a slightly different pattern. So that's 4, and here's 5, and we'll slip stitch in the top of the next solo double crochet. There we are. You can see we've already made 2 scales on that second row. So we'll yarn over and start the third scale. You can see this way too, the scales overlap a little bit. You've got scales worked, I guess you could say, between scales. They're not directly on top of each other. Some crocodile stitch patterns will have them line up. I prefer this look, but obviously you should follow the pattern that you're following. So going around the second double crochet here, kind of folding it over so the rest is out of my way. Go from the bottom to the top with 5 more double crochets. 3, 4, 5, and then of course you find that next solo double crochet, slip stitch in the top. We've got 3 scales done for this row, and we'll start our last scale for this row, going around that first double crochet we made. 3, 4, 5, and then bending around and actually working around that chain 3 that we made at the beginning of this set of scales. That chain 3 we made to start the second row of scales. 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so you can see that's what the back looks like. This is what the front looks like from our second row. And now, in order to keep the pattern even, I'm going to want to work 3 scales in the next row again. So in order to do that, at this point I will chain 1, and rather than working up and starting another row, if I did that it would grow. So to keep it even, what I'll do is chain 1 and slip stitch right into the top of that last shell we made. Then from there I can chain 3 to count as our first double crochet, chain 1 more to count as the first chain 1, and then work 2 double crochets in the top of the next slip stitch. You can see this is working up the back just like before. Chain 1, work a single double crochet in the top of the next shell, chain 1, work 2 double crochets in the next slip stitch, chain 1, work 1 double crochet in the top of the next shell, chain 1, and work 2 double crochets in the top of the next slip stitch. I think by now you've got an idea of how the pattern goes. And then chain 1 and work our final double crochet right in the top of that last shell. Okay, so that's the first half of our second row of shells. So I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to show you a couple more shells here. Obviously here I would start working on the second set of 2, skipping that first single one, start on the first set of 2, single crochet, or excuse me, slip stitch in that one, work a shell here, slip stitch in that one, work a shell there, so I have 3 on this row. Now what I want to show you here though is there's a slightly different way to make the scales. You can see the Crocodile Stitch scales that I've been making are very rounded, almost scalloped looking. Some people prefer more pointed scales, so I'm going to make a pointed scale for you on this one. What I'm going to do is I'm going to work the first 5 double crochets right around that first post of the set of 2 double crochets just like before. There's 3, 4, 5. Okay. And then in here, instead of just going straight to the other half, what I'm going to do is chain 2. Okay. Then I will work the second half going from the bottom to the top of this scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then of course I will, just as before, slip stitch in the top of the next single crochet. Now you can see that that little chain 2 there at the bottom, it leaves a hole, but it also gives it a more pointed look. So some people might do a picot here instead of a chain 2, or maybe just a chain 1. Again, it just depends on the look and the pattern you're going for, but feel free to experiment, try different things. You could do all kinds of things with this sort of stitch. But basically, that's how I work the Crocodile Stitch or the Scale Stitch. It's definitely an advanced stitch. It's for advanced crocheters, so if you're not familiar with things like the double crochet or working around the posts or post stitches, you should probably review those techniques before you attempt the Crocodile Stitch, or just dive in and just take your time and pause the video as needed, and before you know it, you'll be making Crocodile Stitch like the pros. And that's all there is to it. Thanks for watching.